Can you hear me in the back? Dory, we're good. My name is Bill Gocky. I do whatever Dory says. So I'm here. We should all start off knowing that Dory, Gina Clark, Sharon Rester, Sally Painter, and Stacy Clemens were the organizers. So, of course, we come tonight with a trinity of feelings. We have the heavy hearts. We have thanks for the path that brought Kathy and Dick to us 20 years ago. And we have joy. And in that spirit, I'd like to propose a toast, and we're going to hear this throughout the night. It's called Prost! For Kathy and Dick. My men, our first speaker is appropriately Frank Carter, who is a longtime clerk of session.
Wohlschlaeger, our moderator of sessions for 20 amazing years. Let us raise our mugs and glasses to toast his leadership in so many, many ways. And among them, not all of them, but among them, the unicameral system of government, church government. He led the gradual melding of the trustees, the board of trustees, into the session, making session responsible for not only our church's spiritual life, but also its fiscal and property affairs. And it's worked. And he led reorganizing our church programs into 7 ministries, with session committees divided among those ministries in a very logical way. He also led incorporating session members into our worship services. The ruling elders of the session assisting the teaching elders, the pastors. And speaking of our teaching elders, Herr Wohlschlaeger has worked in such a collegial fashion with our 2 associate pastors. To say that those 3 get along is to put it mildly. They are a team, and Lisa and John play major roles as members of session. Now, one last word. Each year, we get more and more electronic devices at session meetings. All manner of laptops, iPads, and smartphones. But it is to Herr Wohlschlaeger's credit that he holds everybody's attention. No elder's eyes are locked on their screens. He is truly a magnetic moderator. So wherever the mug is. Here's to you, Herr Wohlschlaeger. Und Dankeschön, mein Freund.
So the plan is we will have couple speeches and then some time to surround Dick and Kathy with our joy. But before we do that, we have Ken Hull to come greet us now. If you wish.
Good evening. A few weeks ago, when I was asked if I would be willing to participate in tonight's affairs, I thought about it, and I was a little bit apprehensive at first. My apprehension having come from an event that took place at this church some, I would say 12, 14 years ago. I don't remember the exact time. But Dick had asked me to be a part of the Christmas Eve service in which we were all asked to read a portion of the Christmas story. And I guess maybe some of you remember. And my part had to do with the three wise men. And when it came to the part where I had to mention the gifts that they brought, I suggested they brought gold, Frankenstein, and myrrh. Having realized immediately what I said, I thought was, well, do I go back and try to patch that up, or do I just move on? And I said, well, it's probably about 20 minutes to 12, and I can't imagine too many people are paying any attention to that.
Briefly noted.
But in any case, I'm up here, and glad to be here and to celebrate this event. 20 years can seem like a long time, or it can seem like a short period of time. It doesn't seem to me to have been anywhere near 20 years when Dick and Kathy came to Swarthmore Presbyterian. Then on the other hand, it seems to me that it has been a long time since we had years in which our capital budget was $30,000 or less, which necessitated bubble gum and baling twine, the baling twine approach to keeping our facility together. I don't know if many people remember those days, but I haven't forgotten. But it seems like it's been a long time ago. Since then, as a result of Dick's leadership and recognition of the need to maintain, repair, upgrade our facilities and equipment, we have made many improvements that will continue to provide us with a sound facility in which to worship and carry on God's Word. A list of some of the items that have been accomplished during that period of time include renovations to the hearth room in 1995, many improvements resulting from the Building Preservation Fund, which was established in 1997, the comfort of an air-conditioned sanctuary, which occurred in 1997, along with the renovation of the hearth room, McCann classrooms, and sacristy. A bus was purchased to provide transport for those who would find it difficult to arrive individually for church and other activities. Yes, the bus is now 15 years old, but it's still functioning well. The Children's Library was created in 1998. The former Women's Association room, which was possibly one of the dirtiest rooms in the church, was renovated into what is now the church study. A bright, comfortable, attractive, and efficient room. That was done in 2001. In 2002, the Labyrinth was created. Structural improvements were made to the sanctuary in 2004, necessitated by extensive termite damage. The replacement of 3 old boilers with new high-efficiency gas units and associated changes to the heating system in the Braun building were accomplished between 2004 and 2006. A new roof was installed on this building in 2005. The renovation of Loeffler Chapel was completed in 2007. The project that took forever, but provided us with space that is architecturally attractive and versatile, which makes it useful for many events requiring smaller setting. Over the past 2.5 years, members of the Space Utilization Task Force have made use of their talents to facilitate the improvements of the closet foyer, fellowship hall lobby, and just recently the narthex. The reconstruction of the handicapped ramp that leads to the narthex was completed at the end of last year, And the project we are also proud of, the renovation of the chancel and the installation of a new organ, was completed last spring. That's quite a list, and it approximates about $3 million worth of work over that period of time. This demonstrates just how much we have accomplished in the past 20 years. I would suggest that there are many people who have contributed to this effort in a big way, but without the motivational influence from Dick, it is unlikely that this could have happened. It is through his efforts that funds were obtained, that project scopes were developed in a reasonable manner, that difficulties were managed, and the end result has provided us with the ability to host a number of activities that we have come to appreciate and expect as members of SPC. Without his leadership, this would have not been possible. What I thought was most effective is the manner in which Dick made his opinions known, but did not force them on you. He tended to plant seeds, water them, and watch them grow, and boy did he ever. Thanks and best wishes to Dick and Kathy as they enter the next phase of their lives. Now,
just for this, I'm going to tell a story here. So you have to know, well, my wife Joan worked with Kathy at Penn, and as a result, we had a relationship with the Wohlschlaegers that was outside of church. And as such, I took advantage of that, and I tried to make contributions to Dick's daily or weekly sermons. And I would send Dick some humor. And every week that I would send him something, I waited to see if he would ever use it. So I'm going to let you decide. I sent him this. Did you hear this one, right? So the elderly woman walks into the local country church. The friendly usher greets her at the door and helped her up the stairs. "Where would you like to sit?" asked the usher. "In the front row, please." "You really don't want to do that," says the usher. "The pastor is really boring." "Do you happen to know who I am?" says the older woman. "No," he says. "I'm the pastor's mother." The usher says, "Do you know who I am?" "No." "Good." Did you hear that joke ever being told? All right. We now have Larry Shane, who was the chairman of the Pastoral Nominating Committee that brought Dick and Kathy to Swarthmore.
Thank you, Phil. I am really glad to have this opportunity to say some serious things about Dick and Kathy. I have been waiting a long time to be able to do it, but the time is now. And you know, it's been over 20 years in coming. It's been over 20 years.
Gilbert, stop it. What are you doing? They have heard you say this 100 times. Do you think you're Abraham Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address 20 years ago? Oh, I told you you were supposed to wear your good jacket when we come to this nice party, and I brought it along, and I want you to put it on.
I'll be right back. feel. But Melba, gone, darn it. You look a little scruffy yourself. Isn't that the very same dress you were wearing 20 years ago when we first met Dick and Kathy? And as usual, your slip is showing.
I know my slip is showing. You know, dresses are shorter these days. And my dirndl is at the cleaner. Now, Tilford, dear, why don't you introduce us to these nice folks? You know, I see some adorable baby boomers out there. They probably don't know us as well as they wish they did.
Be glad to, sure, Melba. Now this here is Melba, and I'm Tilford, and we are the Diffensnuffers, and we are no strangers to this church. Melba, tell them how we came to SPC for the first time and met Reverend Wohlschlaeger.
Tilford, get Dick's name right. After all, it's been 20 years. Well, as it happens, Swarthmore Presbyterian Church was the 27th church that we had tried. And folks were not friendly to us at other churches. They laughed at our name, and I even saw someone pointing at my dress.
So anyhow, SPC was the only church left for our list and consideration. After the service, when we introduced ourselves to Pastor Dick, we explained that our name, Diffensnuffer, is German. It comes from the word Dankeschön. Such a pretty word, isn't it?
And Dick did not laugh at us. You know, he said that he had a German name, and he knew what it was like to have sort of a difficult last name. And I remember his words then. He said, "You are welcome at SPC." Oh, my Dick was so handsome then.
I don't know how the past tense got into the church. And then we met his beautiful wife, Kathy. I said to Malfa, "This is a twofer." 2 for the price of 1.
You know, I don't know what us altos are going to do without Kathy in our section. She has the sweetest voice, and she is so nice to everyone. She is even nice to you and to me.
That doesn't happen very often. One of the highlights of the last 20 years for us was when we, and a lot of other good folks, joined Dick and Kathy for that SPC trip to Germany when we followed the Luther Trail. Melba, when was that?
Well, let's see. That was a church group going to Germany. Oh, I know. It was the year 2000 because we got to see the Passion Play in Oberammergau. That was one reason we went. Do you remember?
And Melba here got lost in the new Schwanstein Castle, and the whole group had to go looking for her.
But you know, everyone was so glad when he was found. It was scary. And we sure did have a great time in Munich at the Hofbrauhaus. Remember, Tilford? Pastor Dick led the dancing. And he kept getting these waitresses to bring more beer steins to our table. Now that really was an Oktoberfest.
It sure was, and I'll never forget those waitresses. We sure said Dankeschön a lot better. By golly, that was fun.
Say, Tilford, isn't it nice about the new organ?
Well, yes, but you know, Melba, you and me sang in that choir a long time, and we had the loudest voices. Seems to me that organ should have the name the Diffensnuffer organ.
Say, I heard something the other day about all the stuff we're going to have to do to try to find another minister. Like, an interim committee, a search committee. I'm sure everyone will want you and me to be on those. But sure.
No, thanks. Been there, done that. Too old. Melba here had a good idea. We circulated an online survey a few weeks ago asking every member to put down what they liked and what they didn't like about Dick. Of course, everyone had lots of good stuff to say about Dick, yada, yada, yada. But the first thing everyone mentioned was his wife, Kathy.
Well, I sure agree with that. But Tilford, we don't have time to go through those long lists of what people liked about Dick. Tell us what folks did not like.
Well, there was one thing. I think every single choir member mentioned it.
What was that?
That he rings the bell in the narthex too loud. And he does it 3 times. Every one of us in the choir back there dropped our hymnals the first time he did it. Almost blew my hearing aids out. I guess the only other thing mentioned was the gluten-free communion service. Oh, that was a mess.
That was a mess. I had to get my dress dry cleaned after that. But I did have another thing on my list. For 20 years, I asked Pastor Dick to please preach a sermon, "Why did God make spiders?" He never did it. So I still don't know.
I'm with you.
Melba, we've really gotten to know and love Dick and Kathy.
You bet we do.
All in all, it's been a fabulous 20 years. But Melba, old bean, time for us to wrap this up.
I guess so. Because I'm starting to feel kind of sad and down in the dumps.
Now, Melba, soldier up. That's the Diffensnuffer motto. Remember, dear, we are Diffensnuffers, not Diffensnifflers. We are simple folk, but I think we speak for everyone here when we simply say,
Dick
and
and
Kathy, you are the best.
toast to the Diffensnuffers. All right, so you want to hear the other joke that I said to Dick and I don't think ever got to say? Anybody in the back want to hear the other joke? Okay, here we go. So I sent him this. I just want to know if you ever heard him tell this joke during the sermon that I might have missed. So one Sunday morning, my mother went to wake her son and tell him it was time to get ready to go to church. He replies, "I'm not going." "Why not?" she asks. "I'll give you 2 reasons. 1, they don't like me, and 2, I don't like them." His mother replies, "Well, I give you 2 reasons why you have to go. 1, you're 54 years old, and 2, you're the minister." Did he ever say that joke? I mean, really? Fortunately, we have a more serious speaker. Graham, please come on up. A round of applause.
I want to thank Phil for putting me right after Larry and Marty. That was a really nice gesture. I do feel honored to make a couple of remarks tonight about Dick's leadership of worship. And in thinking about his leadership of worship, I realized I didn't remember everything that happened in the last 20 years. So I decided to go right to the source. No, not you, Dick, Doherty. And I asked Doherty to give me a list of the things that have been kind of new and innovative in the last 20 years in the worship service. And she gave me a list, and she sent it along with a piece of advice. She said, "Here's the list, don't read it." That was good advice, because the list is really long. But I do want to mention a couple of things that I wanted just to kind of give you the flavor. There was the family service. There's the early worship service. There's the time with children. There's the sung psalter. There's the new chancel. There's the new organ. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, I thought that those things were going to be Dick's legacy to this congregation. But as I read the list, I realized that Dick's legacy goes way beyond those programs. And I noticed that in many of the cases, it was members of the congregation that did all the heavy lifting for those programs. In fact, some of them weren't even Dick's idea. So why are you in line for credit, Dick? Well, you're in line because you've built a culture here that encourages members of this congregation to have opportunities to live out their own ministries. And if you look at the church bulletin every week, on the cover it says ministers, members of the congregation. We have Dick to thank for that. And if you think about the power in that sentence, first of all, it's given all of us the opportunity to live out our own ministries. Second of all, it's enabled this church to be the body of Christ, here and now, ready to serve in Swarthmore, in Philadelphia, in Chester, and in Nicaragua, and in Appalachia, and in New Orleans, and we're prepared to go on serving into the future. Now that, Dick, is a legacy to celebrate. And so we celebrate. The 20 years you've been present with us in countless session meetings, committee meetings, weddings, hospital rooms, funerals. I recall speaking to the funeral director in one of those funerals, and he asked me whether the people of this congregation realize how fortunate they are to have Dick Wohlschlaeger as a pastor. And I said, I think we do, but what are you thinking of? And he said, well, a number of years ago, there was a funeral that he did at this church. And the interment was going to be in northern New Jersey. It was going to be at least a couple hours drive from here. So I've been in the funeral business for 40 years. And I can tell you that when that happens, what normally happens is the pastor picks up the phone and finds a colleague in the local area where the burials take place. And usually it's possible to find somebody who's going to do the graveside service. It's very brief. It's a few prayers, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, you're done. That's almost always possible, but Dick didn't do that. Dick got in the car, drove for the 2 to 3 hours to the gravesite, did the service, drove back again, took the better part of the day to do it. And that he wanted to do that because he felt that it would be a comfort to the family if he were present there personally. Dick, so many people are present here tonight because you've been so present to us for so many years. The last thing that I realized when I read Dory's list, it reminded me of the ways you've led us spiritually for 20 years. There's a parable that expresses what I want to say. It's a parable about an elder in a tribe speaking to his son, who will someday become the leader of the tribe. The elder says to his son, there's something very important for him to understand about the tribe. He said that every person in this tribe has 2 fierce tigers fighting in a death struggle inside them. One is anger, hatred. The other is love, compassion. The boy was frightened and said, Father, which one will win? His father said, my son, the one that you feed will win. All of us know about those tigers. All of us from time to time feel angry, fearful, judgmental. Politicians and pastors know how easy it is to appeal to those things. But each of us also has the capacity for love and compassion. You've chosen to appeal to those things instead for 20 years. It has made all the difference. Thank you, Dick, and Godspeed.
So we're going off script. Some of you won't be able to see this. It'll be over against that window. This is the Herald Angels, and the Herald Angels have a message that they wanted to deliver. You know the Herald Angels, right? The guys that are hanging out over the. So the Herald Angels say, "Hark, Dick and Kathy." I assume you can hear me, or do I have to be by the mic? All right. Hark, Dick and Kathy, thank you for your sermons. We learned from every one and never dozed off. Thank you for your perfect attendance. We also had perfect attendance with us. Thank you for healing us when we were sick. Termites are not fun. It's the heart, the earl, the angel captain. Right? Thank you for fixing the organ. The acoustics are fantastic. We love the sound. Thank you for the new chancel. We hear and see the choir better now. Thank you for your humor. We laugh inside, but we keep a straight face. Thank you for your inclusiveness. 2 of us are thinking of getting married. Thank you for inviting us to communion. Nobody ever served us. Thank you for inviting us to be new members. We could not make the meetings. We would like to be baptized. Do we need individual names first? Please remember us and keep us in your prayers. We love you, the Herald Angels. Next up is Bob.
long years to take this stage and offer a goodbye toast to Dick and Kathy. Okay, maybe it wasn't 20 years, but I think it was about 8 to 10 years ago when I was in the Don Carpenter catacombs under the sanctuary, moving heavy buckets of rocks and hitting your head on the floor joist below the new chancel. It was around that time that I figured Dick's calls to service might not be the best for all of us. I remember the main calling for me. The year was back in 2004. It was that Sunday in February when the new fresh meat gets ordained into leadership. For me, it was the Board of Deacons, and Dick read the passage about the calling of Simon Peter, James, and John. I think you all know the passage. It's the one where Jesus tells Simon Peter to go out into the deeper waters and try one more cast. And Dick closed with, if there's one thing we have learned about our faith, it's not to be afraid, even of deep waters, for God is with us. I think we're tired of shallow waters. I think we're ready to get into the same boat together and push off from the shore. So given such a call, how can you say no? In my case, that somehow led to crawling underneath the sanctuary. It led to risking life and limb, getting into a mouse-dropping filled 110-degree second floor of the garage for fall fair signs. It means sharing a room with J.W. Clements snoring with IHN. It was sleeping in the hearth room in the middle of the summer with 15 middle school boys from Tennessee and North Carolina and Wallingford and Swarthmore. Endless hours of washing more mugs and dishes than I've ever washed at home. And for many of you, it's been just as hard. During this time, we've started the Stephen Ministry, the Alternative Christmas Shop, the Mission Fair, the Worldwide Mission Task Force, the Shawl Ministry. All of these came into being under Dick's leadership. So, it is with a grateful heart that we now thank Dick and Kathy for such leadership, for their calling of us, and I offer one blessing in closing. May you find warm, comfortable, shallow waters to regenerate your spirit, and may a strong riptide pull you back into the deep waters where you swim so well.
While to spend a little more time with Dick and Kathy, we will be back for, the big finale. And I'll ask you all, I sent it to Dick, did he ever say this joke in church? All right, so the minister was opening his mail one day. He draws out a single piece of paper and found on it written one word: fool. The next Sunday he announced, I have known many people who have written letters and forgot to sign their name. But this week I received a letter from someone who signed his name. Didn't include a letter. Before we go much further, we do have to go back and have a prosit to Dory, Gina, Sharon, Sally, and Stacy, who spent a lot of time working on it. In the summer of 1993, SPC's pastor nominating committee, which was under the steady guiding hand of Larry Shane, that one, had poured through resumes, interviewed candidates, reported that a handsome Midwestern naval officer turned English professor who recently answered the call to the ministry might be just the right leader for SPC. Unfortunately, his name posed some problems. Fortunately, he encouraged everyone to call him Dick. But most importantly, he said yes to the call. So in the fall of 1993, with his devoted wife Kathy and their 3 children, Dick moved from Oak Park, Illinois to Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and on Sunday, November 10th, was formally installed as the ninth, do you believe that? 9th pastor of Swarthmore Presbyterian Church. A reception was held in Fellowship Hall. We did our best to make them feel welcome. From the very beginning, both Dick and Kathy embraced the choir, naturally, and its director, well, the second one too. Let's be honest, there's a spirit of somebody who's missing right now. Patiently tolerating the warbles and quirky habits, I didn't write this, that accompany our sincere desire to create musical offerings for worship each Sunday. In less than a year, it seemed you knew names and faces and were clearly enjoying getting to know our stories, both personally and as a community of faith. I think we have some new choir members here. It happened in the greeting line after worship on Sunday mornings, in the moments that you held our newborn children in your arms for baptism. In counseling session with couples young and not so young, preparing to join their hands and hearts in marriage. Your skills as a counselor, from daily brief exchanges with anxious members to years of compassionate and helpful listening and responding, have helped many of us through difficult times. Your insightful sermons challenge us to look at the way we live our lives and to see possibilities where we once saw problems. Your prayers assure us of God's promises for healing where we have felt pain. You have prayed and held the hands of families and loved ones facing devastating illnesses, tragic losses, and simply nearing the end of well-lived lives. But death seldom has the final word, for you have commended our loved ones to life eternal with thoughtful prayers, carefully selected musics, and homilies crafted to capture the light that has shined so brightly through each colorful soul.
And I won't forget what I did on
skills as a leader and a healer when dealing with conflict or extraordinary. You have been with us when as a board we have worked through difficult budget decisions. You've been with us when as a people we have been conflicted over Sunday morning schedules. You've been with us when as a community we reeled from accusations of a beloved staff member. And you have been with us when as a congregation we face serious and expensive building challenges. Reminding us always that God is our guide and we can move through these things together. To try new things, you have continually embraced the development of new ways and times to worship. Think early worship, psalms by cantors, church family worship. You have eagerly supported enterprises that helped us reach out to our neighbors in need, from an alternative Christmas shop, to the Interfaith Hospitality Network, to relations with mission partners overseas and more. You have welcomed new ideas, new members, and new ways of thinking, without ever losing respect for the 100 years of great ideas, members, and ways of doing things that preceded them. But after 20 years of Christmas Eves, leading worship, weddings on holidays, weekends, sermons to be written weekly, calendar filled with meetings and appointments, and a Sunday schedule that leaves little room for the Sabbath, it's time for you to start singing a new song. And we too must learn to sing a new song, with hearts bursting with love and appreciation for the countless ways that you have shared your gifts with us. We must say farewell and ask God's blessing on you and your family as you move joyfully into a future filled with music yet to be composed. And your best fans, this rendition is for you.
Charlie specifically wanted me to come after the music, so here I am. We have something very exciting for you, Dick, if you would kind of come here with me for a moment. And the steps are right over here. And you can jump up. So Peter Yenawine has created something, one on behalf of the congregation to present to you, and Peter's in Tuscany tonight. So having me give this presentation because new meeting to the junior varsity replacing the varsity.
Peter makes things that break.
There's also a note here, personal note from the artist to the recipient here. Why don't you just stand right here and then fan it around this way so that everybody gets a chance to see. So how do we put this away? I'm going to get this down. Okay. So we are at the Academy Awards. The envelope is being opened up.
This is called My Life by Peter Wayne Yenawine. Conceptually, I wanted to create a sculpture for you that would allow you precious meditation time to ponder and reflect on your extraordinary life. As you turn the piece, the kinetic nature of the sculpture should provide you with different perspectives for years to come. The segments in the bottom are separated with primary structure of our rose window, thereby symbolic of Swarthmore Presbyterian Church. And it, as with the great composers, has a number. Auf Wiedersehen, our dearest Richard, with love and deepest respect, Peter and Nancy, so sorry to not be with you, but thrilled to be in Tuscany.
Knowing Peter, I know he means every word. You got the microphone back. Don't go away, don't wait. Kathy, would you be kind enough to join us up here too? So this is being presented to both of you on behalf of a very grateful congregation for your 20 years of wonderful and dedicated service to all of us. Enjoy your retirement, and we'll miss you.
I don't have that much to say. It's really his show, but I would just say what I've felt since the first day I came in here, and that's thank you. Thank you from the very beginning. When I first came here, it was so welcoming, the congregation and individually members of it, from the pastoral nominating committee and all of their wonderful warmth and gracious welcome. And I would tell a very brief story about when we first came here. I didn't work for the first year we were here because I wanted a chance to get to know the people in the church. And I remember we just had so many invitations to dinner constantly. And Wendy Coslett, we all know and love Wendy, she was trying to invite us over to have dinner with her and Ned and Staples. And she called and she said, well, can you come this weekend? And I said, oh, no, Wendy, we're busy. And she said, well, how about this weekend? And I said, no, we're busy. And then she said, oh, come on. Truly, we are. We eventually made it. But that was the way it was. And it was just the most welcoming place. I could just look out and see so many faces that attest to this. And tonight is just another example of the generosity that we've felt since we've been here. And I think you just made it easy for me. This was the first time, and looks like it's the last time, that I was a minister's wife in the capacity of that we were here. And you made it very easy for me. And many years ago, I think there were a lot of expectations about ministers' wives, what they should and should not do. But I didn't ever feel that here. I felt there were no other outside expectations. I could just be the person I was. And I'm really grateful for that. I was always invested where I wanted to be invested. In the music, of course. And the alternative Christmas shop. And being a deacon. And the things that I thought that I had talents for, just like all of you do, in so many ways. So thank you for that. I thank you for letting me be me and accepting me as I am. And I can't tell you what it's been a privilege to accept all of you as you are. Thank you.
Since the day in early midlife when I sort of banged my head against the wall and said maybe I should go to seminary, and Kathy said, well, why don't you? We've just been on this together, and that's been an amazing ride, and we didn't know it could be so good as it came to be here among all of you. So I really don't know what to say, except as I tried to say in a sermon a couple of weeks ago, sometimes when words fail us, we just say thank you and hope that the people who hear it really know that we mean it as deeply as we possibly can. This has been a wonderful place, and you are wonderful people. I can't imagine a better way to have said goodbye tonight to each of you, and for you to have this opportunity to be with us as this party has been amazing. And, several months ago when Lisa said, well, we've got to have something, look at the calendar. She's typically that way in staff meetings. Very reticent. Never wanting to have an opinion. Once she had set the date on the calendar, I turned to Dory and I said, probably within a day or so, maybe you could ask Sharon Nestor and Jenna Clark, because they really know me and I know them and I know they know how to do a party. I think you agree with me. One more example. Then they asked Sally Painter and Stacy Clements, and I know others have been involved, and I don't dare mention other names, but Sharon and Jenna and Stacy and Sally, thank you so very, very much. Understandably, there would be a bit of apprehension about a night like this, and I'm pretty good at facing things, but about 4:30 this afternoon I thought, ooh, I wish it were tomorrow morning. But I'm glad it's not. I'm glad we're here, and that we've had, I think, a lot of fun. I hope to have met and seen most all of you, but if not, please, let's try to do that before the night is over. Early this week, I almost called the party off because I had visitations from a couple of people who said, you're much too young to retire. One was a member of our community, Edmund Jones. I said, Edmund, just leave me alone. You get married and forget it all. I won't be around to do the wedding, but it's going to happen. The other one, of course, was a member of our congregation. That was Lou Beatty. And so much more to them, but I think at my age, it's also time to retire, and so we will. The lectionary, that's that scheduled readings, has been doing a number on me lately, and I have to tell you that one of the readings for this coming Sunday, and I'm not lying to you, I've tried not to lie, and I won't at this late hour, but the reading from 2 Timothy, John and I were sitting, Lisa was away, ill. I'm glad that she's back. John and I were sitting in the staff meeting a week or so ago, and I said, John, so what are the texts for that last Sunday? I don't know whether to use the text or what. So look, I opened 2 Timothy, and it says, the hour of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight and finished the race. I said, John, I can't use it. They'll think I'm lying. But now I've told you that it's there. But it goes on to talk about all the persecutions Paul has faced, all the horrible things that happen. I said, this doesn't work because this has been really wonderful, and I haven't suffered persecutions. I have been blessed by ministry in Swarthmore Presbyterian Church. So thank you all for that. Sunday should be fun. I worked with Jeff and suggested some pieces of music that we might do for various reasons. We're going to have some good music. In fact, we're even going to have a former choir director come back and sing If With All Your Hearts Ye Truly Seek Me from Elijah Mendelssohn. And if that doesn't tear you apart, I said, Bill, could you sing for me just one more time? And actually, 20 years ago, when I left Oak Park First United Church, a very good friend who was a very good tenor, at my request, sang, If With All Your Hearts Ye Truly Seek Me. So this is kind of like a bookend kind of thing. If there's music that is second to my heart to church music, it would certainly be the Broadway theater. And I think, Glory, this must have been mostly your work, right?
I also had a lot of help from Grant Grissom, who said Broadway.
Well, you picked some of my favorite shows and some of my favorite songs, and as clearly I was singing with you, a couple of them sort of ripped me apart, but then others were lifting me up, and they were wonderful. I said the other day that one of my great failures in ministry here for 20 years has been my inability to rope Dory in. As you know, she does everything. The problem is she does everything well. And so we count on her for too much. But I do want to offer tonight a special thank you to my right hand, my left hand, Dory McGrath, who has been here. She has seen me in some of my better moments and certainly in some of my worst. And she has remained loyal and is continuing to be the treasure she is to all of us. And so I will leave as one of my good legacies to the next pastor, Dory, as well as our entire staff. You have no idea. Yes, you do. Maybe you do. I hope you do. I mean all of them. Jennifer and Allie and Betsy and Morgan. Who am I missing? John Hoeing. Oh my goodness, John Hoeing. I want to thank Bill Gocke for his being master of ceremonies tonight. he's even more German than I. And one of the people missing tonight is his dear mother, who would come occasionally to worship, and I would always greet her at least with a couple of words in German. She would take over, we would nod, and it would all seem really fine. I didn't know that much, but it was really wonderful. So I thank him as well. And as all of you, from beginning with Fran and going through the list, coming up here and speaking, and as you would talk about the things that had happened, you know what came to my mind? Were all of you here in the congregation who were responsible for those outreach activities, those building projects, those program innovations. You put it all together. You have made this ministry for me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless you all. Kathy reminds me, I knew this was going to happen. I was thinking about our office staff and thinking upstairs, downstairs. My good Jeff Duvall. Oh my goodness. And before I came, I received 2 letters from members of the congregation. One of them was from Jim Mall. And I should have known then that we would have a relationship that would be deep and broad and unending, and it has been. I got just the other day another handwritten letter. There have been lots of emails in between, but the opening letter and the closing letter, they framed my ministry, and I thank you, Jim, for all. Am I missing somebody else? I know that all of you should be thanked, and I do thank you all. And if I have missed anyone, I am so very sorry. Thank you all.